Mississippi Valley State is the latest HBCU school to hire a former NFL player as their head football coach. Terrell Buckley, a former defensive back with the New England Patriots, was introduced today by the Mississippi Valley administration. Buckley, who played 14 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Patriots in 2002. Other former NFL players serving as a head coach at an HBCU: Hall of Fame running back Eddie George at Tennessee State, quarterback Michael Vick at Norfolk State, and wide receiver Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and we appreciate you rolling with us in afternoon drive time. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. You just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up. Also, download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never, ever, ever miss an episode. Now, to all the folks that we are in community with, all of the listeners, leaders, and learners, we want to make sure that you all are aware that there's an Eat and Fire resource fair and town hall that's happening. We want to thank our friends over at the NAACP and the law firm Singleton Schreiber. They are working hard to get you all that you need to navigate the recovery from the Eat and Fire, including access to FEMA resources, information on pending litigation, insurance claims support, and more. Today, this Thursday, January 23rd, there's an open house from 5 to 6 p.m. And then there's a town hall from 6 to 8 p.m. and a resource fair after 8:30 p.m. And so it's all happening at Victory Bible Church, located at 1497 North Hill Avenue in Pasadena. That's 1497 North Hill Avenue in Pasadena, California. You can also go to naacp.org/events to get more information on this. Hat tip to Gerald Singleton, Avery Ellis, Greg Bentley, Todd Becker, Patrick McNicholas, and Avery Connor. They're all doing their part to make this happen. And so for all of our leaders, listeners, and learners in the LA area, particularly those affected by the Eat and Fire, go out and get those resources while they are available. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. You decide. Kicking us off, USA Today is reporting that the Justice Department temporarily freezes civil rights litigation and police overhauls. That's right. President Trump's new leaders at the Justice Department froze civil rights litigation and suggested reconsidering agreements negotiated by the Biden administration to overhaul local police departments. This is according to reports about two memos. Lawyers in the Civil Rights Division were ordered not to file any complaints or other court papers until further notice. And another memo that was sent to Kathleen Wolf, who was designated as the division supervisor, directed attorneys to notify leadership of any settlements or consent decrees, such as agreements to overhaul police agencies, that the courts enforce that were finalized by the Biden administration within the last 90 days. Settlements were reached with police departments in Minneapolis, remember that? Louisville, remember that? And Memphis during that period, but judges have not yet approved them, right? And so this is a great example of, what happens as a result of this transition of power. We're seeing that those hard negotiated consent decrees in places like Minneapolis, Louisville, and Memphis that are still pending, that are within that 90-day window, may be scuttled or dismantled because of the transition of power. The memos that were sent by the new chief of staff Changes are expected in the DOJ division that is to be led by Harmit Dillon, Trump's nominee to lead the Civil Rights Division. And so we'll continue to keep our eye on that, as we know that policing in our communities continues to be a very important issue, to say the least. Moving along, NBC News reporting that with Trump's TikTok extension, new potential U.S. buyers emerge. Who will save TikTok? YouTube star Mr. Beast is among several wealthy figures who want it. Donaldson, as in Jimmy Donaldson, better known on the internet as the creator, Mr. Beast. He said in the video on Monday that he might become your guys' new CEO. That's what he said. Donaldson is one of a handful of people who have said that they're interested in acquiring the app in a bid to satisfy a U.S. law that requires TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, to sell it. But he, like others who are interested, would most likely have to pull together co-investors to come up with the funds. President Trump said just this past Tuesday he was interested in Elon Musk or Oracle chairman Larry Ellison buying it. Billionaire Frank McCourt's Project Liberty also created a consortium called the People's Bid, which said it put an offer on the table. So we'll see where this goes. I happen to think that this isn't just about who owns TikTok, but it's also about Congress's willingness to enforce the law. The law didn't say, hey, the president can cut a different deal than the law that was passed. It said that if ByteDance didn't divest, if they didn't sell to an American company, an American owner, then they were going to be shut down. And that's not happening. This has turned into let's make a deal, the Trump White House edition. And so much more than what meets the eye here, but we'll continue to keep our finger on this. And in Diddy news, Sean Diddy Combs files a $50 million defamation lawsuit over alleged sexual assault videos. USA Today reporting that in a rare move, Sean Diddy Combs has launched a legal offensive as he battles dozens of sexual assault lawsuits and will go to trial for allegedly operating a criminal enterprise that involves sex trafficking. Now, in a lawsuit in New York federal court Wednesday, Combs said that he was defamed. He was defamed by a man who allegedly testified in front of a grand jury for Combs' federal criminal case. The lawsuit named Courtney Burgess, Burgess's attorney, Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation, the broadcaster that aired an interview with the two in October as defendants. Burgess has alleged in public appearances that he possessed videos purportedly showing Combs sexually assaulting minors, including celebrities. In fact, he said Sean Diddy Combs is taking a stand against the malicious falsehoods that have been fabricated and amplified by individuals seeking to profit at his expense. That's what Erica Wolf, one of Combs' attorneys, is saying. But the defendants clearly don't agree with that interpretation. TMZ was the first to report the news, and USA Today has reached out to Mitchell and News Nation for a comment. Combs is currently in jail after being denied bond multiple times and is scheduled to head to trial for his sex trafficking and racketeering charges on May 5th. He's maintained his innocence amid more than 24 civil lawsuits over the past year that have accused him of rape, of trafficking, and sexual abuse from the 1990s to 2024. And so I'm sure that promises to be a case that people are going to be tuned into around the world. When we come forward, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I'm really delighted to be in conversation with Jennifer Neal about her memoir of immigration, modern colonialism, and what home truly means. You know, it's not lost to me that right now in this moment, there are a lot of folks in so many different parts of the country and the world. They're really grappling with that question of what home truly means. We have folks who've been devastated by the wildfires in Los Angeles County. We have folks that have been seeking asylum or attempting to seek asylum to come to the United States legally. There are folks that have come to our country through our border, and folks just around the world that are migrating for a host of different reasons. I'm really looking forward to digging into her new book and into this conversation. So you don't want to miss it. When we come forward, more with Jennifer Neal right here on A More Perfect Union in Afternoon Drive Time.
KBLA Talk 1580. We're reimagining radio.
Black owned and operated.
An evidence-based alternative for progressive-minded people like you and me. Welcome home, LA. Your new home.
Come on.
KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to welcome another fellow author, Jennifer Neal, whose memoir of immigration and modern colonialism and what home truly means it's a book that deserves to be on every bookshelf, especially for a time such as this. It's called My Pisces Heart, a Black immigrant search for home across 4 continents. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here, Nii-Q, should I say?
Sure. And so, look, your book traces the journey of a Black queer woman as she searches the world for a place of security and acceptance to call home. I think there are a lot of Black women, a lot of Black people around the world that can relate to that in a moment like this, where we're seeing severe weather events and political upheaval really create a lot of anxiety for folks. Talk to us about why you decided to write this book.
Sure. I guess you could say, and perhaps you might be able to relate to this as a fellow author, that a book idea isn't just something that sort of springs up out of the blue. It's something that develops over time and takes shape, especially if you're writing about current sociopolitical factors that have taken decades or centuries to properly manifest. So this idea, I would say, started around, honestly, the first time I thought about it was 2006, when I was living in Japan and writing about my experiences there on just a personal blog. But I didn't think about actually turning it into a book until around 2016, when a certain person was elected to office in the United States. And I remember at that time I had just moved to Berlin, and there was a mad rush amongst my circle, amongst a lot of Black people in Berlin circles in there, if they were from the United States, who wanted to possibly consider leaving. And that is when I pitched the idea of the Blaxit column to The Root, who I was writing for at the time. Going to different places and investigating them, seeing, what their attitude was towards Black migration, Black immigration, and what Black communities existed there, and what life was like for them. And it started sort of as like an anthropological curiosity, and a personal sense of curiosity. I wanted to see like what other people's experiences were. I was just kind of nosy, but very quickly I began to understand that there were a lot of parallels between the experiences of migrants, regardless of the circumstances that drove them to leave their home and move to another one. And I wanted to focus specifically on Black migrants because I'm a Black migrant, and that means something to me on a very personal level. And even that word is highly politicized. So I was trying to think about how to approach it in a way that would inform people about how we move about in the world on a wider scale. And as I was writing that column in this developing political climate, I just realized I couldn't write a column about this and talk about it effectively. I couldn't say all the things I wanted to say. I couldn't do all the research I wanted to do. You know, columns are like 1,000 words. And it's not an effective way to really bridge connections unless you can do it over a long period of time. So I just decided to write a book.
Yeah. And we're so glad that you decided to write this book. I mean, even just hearing you share that, you make me think about, some of the stories that I included and quite frankly, observations and analysis that I included in my book, Kamala, the Motherland and Me. I had a chance to travel to Ghana and Tanzania and Zambia to cover Vice President Harris's historic trip. And one of the things that I certainly have heard, and I suspect you've heard as well, from Black folks who are just kind of fed up with the avalanche of injustice that
that's a good way to put it,
and experiencing, here in the United States and in other parts around the world, that folks are saying, maybe I want to live the expat life. Maybe I'm going to, follow in the steps of James Baldwin or Josephine Baker or, some of many of the Black luminaries who spent some time abroad living that expat life. And one of the things I write about in the book is that, for some of us, particularly those of us that are part of the Black queer community, that, going to other parts of the world doesn't necessarily give us the same respite as some of our other sisters and brothers and siblings.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because, we're told, I think, as a collective, if you don't like something, leave and go somewhere else. And that in and of itself is problematic because Black people aren't a monolith, right? So one person would have one experience in Ghana. Like, for example, W.E.B. Du Bois, when he went to Africa later in life and he became more radicalized, for example. Whereas I heard a couple years ago, there was this massive New Year's festival in Accra where a lot of Black Americans went there and were kind of culture shocked about the situation there, because they weren't expecting, or some people didn't do research about the local customs and beliefs, and they found themselves like kind of a little bit put out. So I do think that it's important to understand that it's not a one fits all kind of situation. And I'm not telling people where to go or what to do or how to be in this world. I think that's something that we all have the right to explore for ourselves, and that we should be granted the autonomy, that we should just realize that we have this inherent right to figure out what that is. So I do believe that it's a good idea to look at the journeys of people like Du Bois, like Maya Angelou, like Baldwin and Josephine Baker, and read about their experiences abroad. But I also think it's important to understand that, your experiences as a Black person and those experiences with regards to racism are kind of a matter of degree in a sense, because every part of the world has been touched by colonialism and is subject to a lot of the beliefs and attitudes that began in that colonial era. And that doesn't exist in a vacuum, and neither do you. So be open-minded, and be inspired, and also be prepared to kind of challenge yourself on your preconceptions about what a place may be or who you might be in that place. That's very important.
Yeah, no, I think that's sage advice. It's sage advice. Talk to us about some of the research that you did for this book. You talked about the sort of Blaxit column that you had in the Root, and actually remember reading that.
Oh.
I totally geeked out over it, because think about it. I mean, there really, aren't a lot of news outlets that are publishing stories like that. And so I want to say thank you for publishing that story, and for taking so many of those insights, bringing some of those insights to bear in your new book, The Pisces Heart, A Black Immigrant Search for Home Across 4 Continents. Talk to us about some of the attitudes and some of the trends that you discovered in your research for this book.
Sure. When I began writing that column, initially what I did was, I would go to places and I would research, where do the Black people hang out? What are they doing? I did a lot of that on social media, actually, like Facebook groups. I was actually pleasantly surprised to learn that in places where Black people are not the majority, they have actually built very substantive communities for themselves where they inform each other about, number one, immigration policy or trends in politics need to be aware of. And they also create community spaces for each other to practice customs or traditions or holidays from where they come from. They open up markets that sell spices from home. They have hair supply places for people who are looking for, 4C shampoo, for example. So a lot of that was research done on social media forums. And when I went to interview people and they would share their experiences, that in and of itself was very valuable. However, as a journalist, I also wanted to provide some historical context. So I ended up reading a lot of peer-reviewed news journals, articles that I had to use Google Translate for to understand. Like, for example, I don't speak Swedish, but I wanted to interview Black people in Sweden about their lives and experiences there. And they would send me links to articles or things that they thought would be relevant to my piece, but I didn't understand that language. So I would have to translate that, and then I would have to ask questions. And then it just became such a nonstop explorative journey. If I asked one question, that would lead me to 10 more. And for this book, which I knew would be a massive undertaking, I did not fully understand how much until I was in it. Because I'm looking at this through the lens of somebody who was born in 1983. I'm looking at this through the lens of the knowledge that I have acquired since I've been on this earth. And to really understand things like colonial attitudes and imperialism in feudal Japan and how that fueled anti-Black attitudes in the modern era, I had to go back 300, 400, 500 years to understand the country's relationship with skin tone, and then to understand when and how that became racialized. And the same thing I had to do in Australia, in Germany, and the United States I had a better grasp on for obvious reasons. But to make the connections between one place to the other, I had to go back. And it reminds me of something that I think it was, I forget the author's name, but they said that history is perennial. So who and what we are today is directly connected to what has happened 50, 100, 200 years ago. And that took a tremendous amount of research on the page, but also a tremendous amount of self-interrogation about what I thought I knew and what I thought I'd seen. And it provided new contexts for what I thought I had learned. And because I can't completely trust my perspective on some of the research I was finding, I solicited the use of readers. So there was this brilliant cultural sensitivity reader named Angie Martin. She's a First Nations Australian person who does this for a living, who has direct connections with the different nations in her area. And I said to her, I go, look, I want to write a section about how anti-Black as in African attitudes have developed in Australia, but I don't think I can do that without investigating anti-Aboriginal sentiments in Australia, because they also call themselves and refer to themselves as Black. And there's been a lot of cross-cultural solidarity between our communities over the years. And luckily, she understood exactly what I wanted to say. She was very gracious with her notes. She was incredibly wise and sage and very generous with her knowledge. But that's where I realized, you're going to write a nonfiction book. You actually need a village. You can't just do it on your own. And I did the same thing with the other sections as well. So it was an incredibly significant undertaking.
Now, what's so interesting to me is that, you were born in the United States. You were born to a family that moved around a lot, in part for their own survival and in part for just well-being. You write about sort of the Great Migration to modern day. And what really took me aback when I was learning about you and your new book, My Pisces Heart, you write in the book that you've never seen home as a permanent concept. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think home is a very transient idea. It changes consistently. I've never understood people who, and I'll just elaborate on this in a minute because I don't want it to sound insulting. I've never understood people who are born in a place and they stay in that place forever. And that's just never been my experience. I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. We left when I was 3. I never moved back to Charlotte. I barely know Charlotte. And we moved pretty much every 3 to 5 years after that until I went to university. And then I just kept going. It was almost like I didn't know how to be still, because I think I understood that environments are like people, they change. And maybe one place that is good for you in the moment might not be great for you the next. And it was up to you to sort of adjust to that and to adapt to that. And it's just something that's kind of a part of my entire existence now.
Well, what a dynamic existence that is. In this book, you say that you pay tribute to immigrants and their stories, but it's also a searing indictment of how contemporary discourse endangers immigrants. We certainly this past week have seen an example of how the actions of folks from the Oval Office, on Capitol Hill, and so many places in between, how almost overnight can create danger for folks. We know that there's reports of pending ICE raids across the country, and ICE raids kind of off the rails, right? I mean, there were some safe zones that were designated in years past and in administrations past, and now those safe zones don't seem to exist. Churches, places of worship, schools, even weddings and funerals are not off limits. Hospitals are not off limits. And so when we come forward, I want to give you an opportunity to connect the dots between the insights that you have to offer in your new book, and the anxiety that so many of our fellow Americans and people around the world are experiencing after just not even a full week into Trump's second presidency. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Jennifer Neal, author of My Pisces Heart, A Black Immigrant Search for Home Across 4 Continents. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
The wind is blowing cold. Have we lost our way tonight? Have we lost our hope to sorrow?
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Trump Department of Justice is halting police reform agreements and barred new civil rights cases, citing a need for review by the next administration. This affects deals like Minneapolis Police Department's consent decree after George Floyd's murder, reflecting Trump's stance against such reforms. Authorities say the Nashville, Tennessee school shooter, a black 17-year-old who killed a student before taking his own life, left writings on social media showing school layouts, gun photos, and neo-Nazi propaganda with anti-Semitic views. Wall Street is closing with stocks higher as the S&P 500 finished at a record high. It comes after President Trump called for cheaper oil prices and lower interest rates when speaking virtually at the World Economic Forum. And Black New York Attorney General Letitia James is announcing Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family will pay $7.4 billion to settle opioid lawsuits. Funds will support addiction treatment and prevention. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusion supply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers might have done the Lakers a favor last night by pushing the Boston Celtics to overtime at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Celtics have to play the Lakers tonight after their tough 4-point win over the Clippers. It'll be interesting to see how much energy the defending NBA champs have for their longtime rivals. 7 p.m. tip-off on TNT. Mississippi Valley State is the latest HBCU school to hire a former NFL player as their head football coach. Terrell Buckley, a former defensive back with the New England Patriots, was introduced today by the Mississippi Valley administration. Buckley, who played 14 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Patriots in 2002. Other former NFL players serving as a head coach at an HBCU. Hall of Fame running back Eddie George at Tennessee State, quarterback Michael Vick at Norfolk State, and wide receiver Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. Sign up for Notify LA on your phone to get fire danger alerts and updates, or check on lafd.org. The Watch Duty app is free and provides wildfire maps and updates in real time. Keep your gas tank full and plan your route in case you have to leave the area. City and county officials are urging you to pack a go bag so you can be ready to leave your home quickly in case of an evacuation order. Your go bag should include a couple of days of clothing, copies of your important documents and ID, money, insurance information, your medications, electronic devices, batteries, chargers, a small radio, and emergency contacts. If you receive an evacuation order, gather your loved ones, grab your bag, your pet food, and leave immediately. For information on shelters for your pets or even your family, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide. Wearing a mask outside will help protect you from smoke, toxic fume, and particulate matter. If you don't need to go out, it's best to stay home with the windows closed. Getting to know your neighbors is a great way to stay safe, stay connected, and share resources. And Angelinos are stepping up to help, so reach out and find the assistance you need. Mutual Aid LA Network is constantly updating a Google Sheet with mutual aid resources. You can find it at tiny.cc-malan-fire. The earlier you make a plan, the better off you'll be when every second counts. Praying for LA, preparing, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Hit me! National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. I hope you all are enjoying as much as I am with Jennifer Neal about her new memoir of immigration, modern colonialism, and what home truly means. Her book is called My Pisces Heart, A Black Immigrant Search for a Home Across 4 Continents. Jennifer, I want to give you a chance to, react to the question that I posed before the break about, the anxiety-inducing actions of President Trump, just not even a full first week in office, and how his actions are really making people feel less at home, and how we overcome that.
Look, January 2025 has been like the longest year in a while. I suppose the first thing I want to say is all the anxiety that people are feeling is incredibly legitimate and incredibly valid. And there's nothing to brag about being well-adjusted to a sick society. And I think we have to be very mindful of how immigrants are treated now and how we want them to be treated in the future, because that country, if it got rid of all the immigrants in it tomorrow, would collapse. United States and the West in general relies on immigrants for labor, to keep the economy going, to enrich the cultural atmosphere. You just can't put a price tag or a number on the contributions of people who are not from that country. And it's something I've seen take place across the West. Like here in Germany, we're having conversations about remigration, remigration, which is what the conservative and far-right parties are calling. They want to deport anybody who is not of an ethnic German background. And that is a sentiment that is sweeping across the West in a very contagious manner. And something I read about in the book is how these governments are kind of obsessed with what they call containment of immigration, containing these issues, as if that's the source of the problem, as if immigration has not been used historically to fix economic issues, to address social stagnation. The real issue and the real problem that has been sweeping across the world and threatening our sense of personhood is racism. And racism is at the heart of xenophobic and anti-immigration policies. And to see that unfold at this point in time, after having spent however long writing this book with 500 sources, with multiple expert opinions and analysis and review of that book, showing how anti-immigration attitudes leads directly to the downfall and collapse of that society, I personally feel extremely anxious about what this bodes for that future. You can't be a student of history and not see the parallels, not see the pattern recognition of what is happening now, especially as somebody living in Germany right now in this moment.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to understand the role that immigration plays to improving society and how collapsing it actually hurts a society. There's this great quote by Michael Brooks, who I miss every day because he passed in 2020, and he said, "We should be nice to people and ruthless with institutions. Instead, what we're doing is we're being ruthless with people and nice to institutions. And one bodes well for democracy and one bodes well for fascism." And we are seeing the latter play out right before our eyes. And how they treat immigrants is the foundation of how these policies are built. Because once you start singling out people who are different based on their ethnicity, their mother tongue, their religion, the color of their skin. It's the beginning of a very significant shift to something that will impact everybody. And I need people to understand that more than anything else right now. It may not affect a single individual in this moment. It will affect all of us in the long run. And that'll come sooner than you think.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear. And just as you were laying that out, you made me think about the movie Origin, directed, of course, by Ava DuVernay, starring Anjanou Ellis, and just the message of that film, the message of so much of the body of work of Isabel Wilkerson, another Black author whose name I want to lift up. You're sitting in Germany. I'm sitting in Washington, D.C. right now. It's not lost on me, based on what was revealed in that movie, that Hitler's regime got a lot of his ideas from how we were treating Black people here in the United States, how the American government was treating Black people, how the American government was discriminating systematically against Black people, right? And I think a lot of people miss that connection, that what happens here happens in so many other parts of the world, right? If Black people here in the United States are under siege and are unsafe and are a target of their own government, right, then it is a green light for governments in other parts of the world to do the same thing to Black people and all people in their part of the world.
100%. And this is something that I don't think is highlighted nearly enough, either in German education or in American US education, which is the connection between Nazi Germany and the Jim Crow South and the genocidal anti-Indigenous policies like the Trail of Tears in the United States. Hitler praised FDR for his approach towards racial segregation, his commitment towards that. He bragged about it openly in speeches. He commended the United States openly. He said, the only nation in the world that is showing us how to deal with this question is the United States. Yeah. And if it weren't for the book, Hitler's American Model, which is cited heavily in my book, if it weren't for one or two diplomatic situations that led to the United States taking a firmer stance against Hitler and against Nazi Germany, the two countries could have been working together. Honestly, they had more in common than they didn't. So it's not something that I need for people. Well,
there you are. Great. I'm sorry. We were having just a little minor technical difficulty, but you're back.
All good.
As soon as I said she's joining us from Germany, and all of a sudden,
I was like, Zuckerberg, is that you?
No worries. But I want to give you a chance to finish your point.
Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. The analysis I make in the book is that Jim Crow laws and anti-literacy laws in the United States during slavery and during Reconstruction directly influenced and impacted the dictation test and pre-apartheid segregationist laws of South Africa. And those laws also directly shaped the White Australia policy and the dictation test there. So all of these different forms of institutional violence are interconnected. There's a real multi-directional memory to how it's been manifesting, because white institutions that are intent on preserving this sense of whiteness for their nationhoods look towards one another for inspiration on how they can further improve and perfect their particular forms of racism. Trevor Noah wrote about it in his book, Born a Crime, how there was a commission set forth to establish apartheid in South Africa, where people were sent out to all different corners of the world to investigate racism in these places and that places. And they came back and created what he described as a perfect form of racism. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that the United States is another stop on that road. It is interconnected to that map, and the systems of oppression that exist there are directly influenced by and inspire systems of oppression everywhere.
In our remaining minute, Jennifer, in My Pisces Heart, your new book, you demand a meaningful conversation on not only the ways in which we live with our histories, but also how they live through us. How do you hope your book changes the conversation around immigration, particularly in Black communities? Because so often, in terms of the way that it's reported, we report on immigration like it is a Latino issue, and more specifically, a Mexican issue. And we don't zoom out often enough. We don't apply a wide lens. We don't see Black immigrants at the center. We might see them at the margins. And so how do you hope your book changes that?
Gosh, I hope it inspires. I hope it inspires some Black people who are immigrants. I hope it just encourages them to tell more of their stories, because there's so many of them. And I hope it encourages gatekeepers in publishing, in the media, on TV, to hear those stories, to center those stories in this conversation, because we are on the margins of it. And, that's not by accident. And it's not as if the stories don't exist. They exist in droves, and they're diverse, and they're interesting, and they're inspiring, and they're heartbreaking, and they're hilarious sometimes. And they deserve to be heard. And I think there has never been a better time in history for us to shout it from the mountaintop that Black stories matter too.
Black stories matter. Black authors matter. Black immigrants matter. Jennifer Neal, her new memoir, My Pisces Heart, a Black immigrant search for home across 4 continents. It's available right now. People can go out and get it wherever books are sold. I'm going to call this required reading for this inflection point we find ourselves in world history. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Nii-Quartelai.
Please come back again soon. I'm sure you're going to be in hot demand if this week is any indication. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we're starting something new called Persons of the Week. Got 2 people that you absolutely have to know about. You might even already know about at least one of them. More when we come forward on A More Perfect Union.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles as it presents a Los Angeles Wildfire Benefit Concert on Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church, 500 East Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. Join us for a powerful evening of music, unity, and support as talented performers from our community come together to raise funds for those affected by the wildfires. The concert is free, and all proceeds raised will benefit those who have sustained unimaginable losses. It's the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles in concert, Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Pasadena, located at 500 East Colorado Boulevard. All contributions should be made payable to the California Community Foundation Wildfire Community Fund. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The holidays can be a time of increased stress for those struggling with opioid or stimulant addiction. They can also be a time for pause, reflection, opportunity, and new beginnings. This holiday season, choose treatment and recovery, embrace the company of family and friends, and create special moments. Find a proven opioid or stimulant addiction treatment provider near you at choosechangeca.org.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You've been listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. And like I said before the break, we are piloting sort of something new. It's the end of the week for us. And it's a new year. We're in afternoon drive time. It's the end of the week. And we think it might be kind of cool to just sort of highlight persons of the week, people of note that you should know about at a minimum. In some cases, they might make you proud. In other cases, they might make us think. Who knows? I suspect that the two persons of the week that we're celebrating this week may, in fact, make us do all of the above. Kicking us off, I want to introduce you to the economist who survived a wildfire. Now she's taking on California's insurance crisis. Now, you've heard me talk about this at length since the LA wildfires broke out. I will continue to talk about how this crisis really represents the convergence of the climate crisis, the housing affordability crisis, and the insurance crisis. And this person's of the week totally gets that. 3 decades ago, Nancy Wallace narrowly escaped death in what was then California's most destructive wildfire. Since then, the problem of wildfires has gotten much worse, so bad, in fact, that the state now faces a crisis in the market for home insurance. Solving the insurance crisis is something that's very much in Wallace's wheelhouse, and she's been developing some important ideas and tools to try and fix it. You see, Wallace, according to NPR, is a professor of finance and real estate at UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. And she's a former advisor to the U.S. Treasury Department and Federal Reserve. She specializes in identifying and mitigating financial risks in housing markets. And she conducted some eye-opening studies on the rising risk of wildfires. See, she was ahead of the game. She's working with climate scientists to create forecast models that can help rescue failing insurance markets. And she's advocating for new insurance schemes and financial products that will help California homeowners retrofit their homes and lower the danger that they're destroyed by future fires. And so hat tip to Nancy Wallace. Congratulations. You are one of our persons of the week. And before we go, we told you it's a double dose of persons of the week. The other one, probably a bit more visible, Karine Jean-Pierre, who is now a contributor to Vanity Fair. Karine had this amazing article that was posted, and I was blown away at the fact that, it's hard enough doing the job as White House press secretary, whether you're serving a Democrat or Republican. But when you are a historic first, the first Black queer woman in her case, that is the White House press secretary, there is not a lot of room for mistakes. And she has navigated the terrain with style, with grace, and in community when she's not at the podium. But in this Vanity Fair article that you all absolutely have to check out, it's called Karine Jean-Pierre, President Biden's Barrier-Breaking Press Secretary, Reveals Some Truths About Her Job. And one of the truths that she reveals that I was even a bit surprised by was that her mom was battling colon cancer while she was press secretary. Just quietly battling colon cancer. And to imagine the weight of a job like that, one of the hardest jobs in Washington, D.C. I've known Karine for many years. She is a friend and a colleague. And there's been no shortage of crises facing this administration, facing the country. But I couldn't imagine really having to handle all that while very privately doing your part to support your mom going through such a severe health event like that. And so a hat tip to Karine Jean-Pierre for sharing that personal story and so many other insights that she reveals in this Vanity Fair article. And so you all be sure to check it out and pick up your next edition of Vanity Fair featuring contributor Karine Jean-Pierre. That's all we have. We're going to have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village. Helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tabitha Smiley. Our sound engineer, Andy. Our producers, Faraji and Kim. And each and every one of you. Remember, don't panic. Organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you've been listening to A More Perfect Union in Afternoon Drive Time right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. California lawmakers are approving $2.5 billion to assist with cleanup and recovery from recent wildfires in the Los Angeles area. Both the Democrats and Republican parties agree that the aid is just the beginning and more work is needed this year for managing wildfires and rebuilding affected communities. A Seattle